Welcome to the Man of the Month series. I'm so thrilled to have you here. I'm your host, Michelle Marchant Johnson, and I'm here today with a special guest, and that is the wonderful Ken Bechtel. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here.
So happy to have you here, Ken. So as many of you know, I do an annual Man Panel event where I feature all male experts who share their wisdom and insights for the women out there. And this is an extension of that series so that you don't have to wait a year in between the events. And Ken Bechtel is here back by popular demand. So many of you requested to hear from him again, and I'm so happy to share his wisdom once again. Thanks again, Ken, for joining us.
My pleasure.
So Ken, I know a lot of the women here are going to be familiar with you and your work, but just in case, we'll just do a quick introduction and then we'll get underway with what I know will be a really fun conversation. Ken Bechtel helps women find love that lasts. For over 20 years, he has shared his wisdom, insights, and amusement to help women get their needs met and to be loved for all of their unique beauty. As the creator of the Finding Success in Love program, he brings you the real story from a man's perspective of what it takes to be adored by a great guy and have a committed partner to share your life with. You can get started on your path to partnership at kenbechtel.com. However, we're also going to tell you at the end of our conversation today a free gift that you'll be able to get from Ken too. So stay tuned for that. So Ken, I want to start right in by asking you a question that I know is really important, and I really want to hear your perspective on this. And that is, what is the difference between a relationship and a partnership? And why is that important?
Well, it's a great question. And, you know, it is really important because most people view those two things as the same, right? We use them interchangeably and they're the same thing. But the truth is they're not. They're not even close to the same. Because relationships, how can I describe? Relationships are like, well, right now, probably most of the people watching this are sitting in a chair of some type, whether it's in their, at the desk or in the sofa, wherever, but you're sitting in a chair. So you're in a relationship with that chair, right? What are you doing for the chair?
Putting weight on it, not too much.
Yeah, that's about it, right? And somebody once say, I'm holding it down, but the truth is the chair's not going anywhere if you don't sit there, right?
Right.
So what's happening is the chair's doing all the work. It's supporting you, it's allowing you to relax, it's allowing you to be your best self and recoup and recover. And you're just receiving. Well, that's how most people's dating experiences go. Give, 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 nothing in return. And unfortunately, especially for women, our culture teaches women to give, 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 give. That's your value. You've got to support, you've got to take care of them. You've got to be the caregiver. And so you give and give and give and give with this belief that if you give enough, he'll eventually give in return.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever been the chair for a chair? Have you ever let the chair sit on you? No, that's not how it works. It's a one-way exchange. And that's what relationships are. The other thing about relationships is they're spatial. So think about it. You're in the chair. As soon as you get up and walk out of the room, relationship's over. It's gone. There's no relationship anymore. You left. This is why so oftentimes you'll feel anxious and stressful when your boyfriend goes home. Is the relationship over? Now I'm worried. What's this mean? Is he really interested in me? You lose that connection. So that's how a relationship works. And unfortunately, a lot of people are out there being chairs because you've been trained to be chairs. And guess who's interested in a chair? The guy who wants to sit down. Mm-hmm. The guy who wants to just receive. He's not interested in doing anything. So that's what a relationship is. Now, a partnership is very, very different. A partnership it's kind of like a teeter-totter. And, on the playground where you go back and forth. Because, whoops, I'm getting a ring. Let me turn off my ringer. My mistake. One of the things about a teeter-totter that's amazing is you can't do it by yourself. It's impossible. You can't run from one end to the other and make it work. It doesn't work that way. So you've got to have a partner who's engaged, who's actually participating, and they're on board to be both being lifted up and be lifting you up. It goes back and forth. Now, both people are continually engaged. So there's no, oh, they left the room, am I still in partnership? I mean, think about like a business partnership. If you had a business partnership with somebody, you don't leave the office and go, oh, are we still in partnership? Oh my gosh, what happened? We know
Right.
we're in partnership because we're in agreement. It's a continual participation. So that's kind of gives you the overview of the difference. Almost everybody I ever talk to wants a partnership, but all they ever know is how to be in a relationship. They haven't received any training in how to be a partner. Because I'll give you a trick about partnership. Like you know when you're on the teeter-totter in the playground,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're sitting on the bottom, right, the teeter-totter's like this. Is it very easy to get on the top of the teeter-totter?
Mm.
No. So it can't be, oh, I sit on the bottom and wait for him to come jump up there on top and then he can lift me up. You've got to get to the middle so you can invite him in. And most people are sitting here going, hope he comes and jumps on top of the teeter-totter. We haven't been taught how do we get to the middle so we can invite the partner in and then you can go back and forth. So that's kind of the visual of the relationship versus the teeter-totter. You know, most of us know instantly if you've been a chair or if you've been a teeter-totter.
Right. 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 So why do you think that this is such a common pattern, especially for so many women? Because when you talked about the idea of women giving and giving and giving and giving and hoping that in time a man will be inspired to give back, and that seldom happens.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this is such a common thing? Besides maybe some cultural things, are there any other things, any other reasons why you think this is so?
Yeah, I mean, part of it's just primal instinct, right? Because from an instinctive level, the woman wants to make sure her provider and protector is happy. So the belief is if I give more, that'll keep him happy.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that happens, and this has to do with some of the hardwiring that we have as men and women. So men are compelled to make the person they care about happy. They want to contribute to that. Now, if you, as a woman, show up in a relationship and you're giving and giving and giving and giving, well, men don't do things they don't enjoy doing. So we assume you're enjoying that. And you're appearing to. You've got a smile on your face. You're all excited to give, 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 give. Why would he take that from you? He's hardwired to go, I don't want to, that must be her happiness. Why would I take that from you? So you're miscommunicating without even knowing it and training him that you want to do this. This is your joy. And maybe there is some joy to it, but not if it's never reciprocated.
Right, right.
And that's the thing. He doesn't know this. He's not wired that way. And this is another thing, is the feminine is wired for reciprocation. It's automatic. It's part of connection. Connection is the driving force in your life. So if somebody says, oh, you look nice today, you immediately reciprocate. If you give a compliment to a man, that's a nice shirt. What does he do? Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what? Where's the reciprocation? Men aren't wired for reciprocation. So we don't automatically do that. So again, there's this disconnect. Oh, he's a jerk. He doesn't care. Why doesn't he care? He does care. He cares so much he doesn't want to take your happiness from you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got all these things playing in opposite directions. And so it just perpetuates this whole system where it's like, but this should work. Yeah, if you were in a relationship with another woman, like a girlfriend, yeah, they'd reciprocate. Automatic, no hesitation. Matter of fact, if they didn't, that would be weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
For guys, they're like, well, just doing that, unless it's genuine, isn't an integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Because men don't have the same driving force of connection that the feminine does.
Mm-hmm.
The masculine's like, this is another thing that's the masculine feels connected all the time. We don't need to say, oh, you look nice too. We get it. Like guys say something to another guy, they don't need to reciprocate. They're just like, hey, thanks. It's over. That's all it takes. So it's very different in how we operate. And so we keep tripping ourselves up.
Mm-hmm. So would you say I would be overstating it if I said that if a woman is in that pattern of giving, that can actually decrease the motivation of a man to give?
No, I would not say that's overstating it.
Yeah, because that's what I believe. So I wanted to see what you thought about that. I think without meaning to, of course, if a woman continues to give, or sometimes I call it over functions, then I think it can actually decrease a man's motivation. And what you've added here too is, as some of the reasons why, is that if men don't do things that they don't want to do or that they don't enjoy doing, and we're doing all of this, maybe we call it over functioning or over giving, then they're assuming that this is what we want to do. They're believing that that's what we want to do,
Yes.
because that would be what would be happening for them. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I want to clarify something. When I said men don't do things they don't want to do or they don't enjoy doing, what's driving that is men are wired to be efficient in their energy use.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're like, we'll use the example we were, right? You're giving, we assume that must mean you're happy doing that, because we wouldn't do things we weren't happy doing. We wouldn't be doing things we weren't getting a return on. So for us to interrupt that, we don't get a return on that investment, because now I just went from having you be happy to making you unhappy, and it's taking away from your return on your investment. So we're literally wired to not do that. So it's not like, oh, he's just self-centered and a narcissist. It's no, he's wired because it's an efficient use of our energy. And this goes way back to our primitive beginnings where, like, think about it. Way back in hunter days, how did they kill these great big animals without guns, without anything like that? They wore them out. They ran them into exhaustion so that then they would have the advantage to attack them with nothing but sticks and rocks. So they had to conserve their energy so that they could be successful hunters. And that DNA is still there today. It just shows up in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much a hardwiring thing. So what happens is we're literally butting heads everywhere because we don't understand how that works. And the other side of this is, and men will send out a flyer. So here's what guys will do. So you're giving and giving and giving and giving. And he'll send out a flyer. He'll be like, hey, can I help you with that? No, I got it. Done. You just proved my theory, which is this makes you happy. He's not going to keep trying to cut in. You just told him, oh, I like doing this. Great. Just checking. So another part of it is that fear of being receptive. Oh, no, I can't let him do that. I've got to prove I'm capable. And when we do that, his flyer goes out and confirms his belief that you want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in talking to women, so many women are afraid of appearing needy, right?
Yep.
And that's another thing, that's another piece that comes up. And so then we kind of have the I've got it approach to everything. And then that I think also can demotivate a man to give because he's not feeling like he's needed. So there's this distinction between being needed, having needs, and being needy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a huge difference. And it's confusing because it's the same word, right? In different
Yeah,
forms.
exactly.
Needed, needy, and needs. Of course, we think they're all the same, but they're very, very different. So men need to be needed because we want to contribute. So we need to be able to contribute. And if you don't let us contribute, this is literally, you'll hear women or men say this to women when they break up. You need someone who can make you happy. And women will literally think, oh, that's just a cop-out. You could make me happy if you wanted to. No, you've proven to him he can't make you happy because you won't let him participate. If men believe they can't make you happy, they will leave because they're so committed to your happiness, they don't want to be in the way of it. They're saying, look, I care about you enough. I'm getting out of here so you can find happiness because clearly I'm a barrier to it. That's what you've taught them by saying, nope, I got it. I don't need your help. I don't need your help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the other thing. When a man's convinced he can make you happy, that's who he marries. So if you're looking for a guy to spend your life with, You got to be receptive or it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And that flies in the face of the idea of, well, now I'm needy or I'm weak or I'm not capable. No, none of those are how men are seeing this. They're seeing it as an opportunity to contribute. So the needy part, this is what's so tricky. We all have needs. If you're alive, you have a need. Plants have needs, animals have needs, we have needs. So we have needs. Everybody has needs. Needy is where you're not willing to do what you need to for yourself, and you want me to compromise my needs to take care of you. That's needy. You could take care of it yourself, but you want somebody else to do it. That's needy. We've all seen that person.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very, very different. Needs are natural. We all have needs. If you don't own your needs, you will die. It's that simple. If you don't eat food, drink water, and get sleep, you will die. Those are all needs. And then there's more of them. Emotional needs. There's, obviously past the health needs, like I need for adventure, I need to feel successful, I need to be recognized. Those are all needs. And we all have to get clear on how much of each do we need and what forms fulfill that. Because if we're just sitting there going, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, how's somebody else going to know? All they can do is guess. And most people, let's be honest, most people guess poorly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is such an important topic that we're talking about here, Ken. Do you mind if I drill down just a little bit more before we move on? So one of the things, and I hope I can articulate this question well, one of the things that's coming to my mind that I want to ask you about is sometimes when I envision this teeter-totter thing that you're talking about, I envision kind of a quid pro quo thing, like he does this and I do that, and he does this and I do that, which makes sense on some level. But I also worry if there's so much like quid pro quo, like in a woman's mind, that it could become more like a friendship or more like a business relationship, where that, in my mind, that's where we're splitting things kind of 50-50 down the middle. So how do we keep that like in the romantic kind of realm and still have that partnership? Did I ask that question in a way that it made sense?
I think so. Yeah. So my short answer to that is stop keeping score.
Okay.
Because that's what quid pro quo is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went last time, it's your turn. And if we take that approach, we're toast. Now, yeah, if you take the literal teeter-totter, that's what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is metaphorical. It's on the whole, you're going to go back and forth. Like there could be a tough time in, let's say, your career. Mm-hmm. So for 6 months, he's the guy lifting you up. He doesn't do one thing and wait for you, even though you're in a difficult situation. That's the business, quid pro quo. So you've got to be, one of the best ways I ever heard it said is don't be afraid to be the one who loves the most in the relationship. It's not a competition. It's the truth. When you're opening up to who you are, it's like, wow, imagine every day if both of you were getting up trying to love the other person the most. You're not keeping score because you just know it's going to be there. Maybe today's a little more, maybe tomorrow's a little less, whatever. But that's what partnership is. Remember, you don't question your partnership when they go home from work.
Right.
It's trusting them. They're going to be there when it's needed, not I have to have proof of it every single day.
Right.
The reason we're wired to look for proof is because we're so used to relationships, which are spatial. Well, if they're not here, I need some proof that he's still my partner. I don't know what he's doing. He just left the building. Mm-hmm. There's no trust. Unless he's here, I don't know I have a relationship. But partnership, there's no questions. So yes, literally it goes back and forth, but it's more metaphorical on the bigger scale. Like overall picture, it's going to end up being back and forth. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be times where it leans on one side, times where it leans on the other. And throughout all that, you have that certainty. You're not giving going, this is a black hole. I'm going to give until I die. Right. You know that the giving is because it's needed on that side right now. And sometime you're going to need it. And that giving is going to come right back.
Right.
That's what partnership is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would absolutely agree with that because I've experienced that in my own marriage where there have been times when I've needed additional support, additional help, additional lifting up, as you called it,
Yep.
and there have been times when my husband has needed that, and it hasn't always, sometimes it's been a longer time for me, or sometimes it's been a longer time for him. And so I've experienced what you're talking about there. I just want to make this really clear to our women that are listening here. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I think that a lot of women have a challenge around this, and then we'll move on to a new piece, is so when women are having this sense that they're feeling needy, or they're having a difficult time expressing their needs, or even showing that they have needs in the context of a relationship, what are some ways, or what are some examples of how they might be more open themselves up to that, open themselves up to more receiving? Because I think most women are really, really good givers. We're really skilled, and our muscles are very, very fine toned in that area. Not so much for a lot of women in the receiving, especially if they've had to be very self-sufficient, independent, for a period of time, either by choice or out of necessity.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you just said there about you've built that muscle of giving. The sad irony of all that is women are designed to receive. Physically, you're designed to receive. Spiritually, you're designed to receive. So it's actually one of your core gifts, but it's been trained out of you. Because our culture said, no, you got to prove how capable you are, and you've got to do, and you've got to give. And like you said, let's say you're a single mom, so you've had everything on your plate, and you've gone, I can do this. Nobody's questioning that you can do that. It's the fact that, because one of the things is people think if I have needs, therefore that means I'm incapable. So let's take this to the extreme. So imagine that if that was how men thought, well, women are so neat, they can't do anything for themselves. They have all these needs, right? So imagine that we're driving around in the world and we pull up to a building, and our assumption, if that's our belief, is that all the women that want to get in that building will be standing outside because they can't possibly open a door. No, when a man opens a door, it's not because he doesn't think you can't do it. It's because he wants to make your life easier. You shouldn't have to. He's bigger and stronger. Chances are it's easier for him to open the door. Let me get that for you. But I can't tell you how many times I've experienced it. I know lots of other guys, you get a dirty look when you try and open a door, like I just insulted you. And it's like, well, guess what? That's going to make me not want to do that very often.
Yeah.
I was actually on a shuttle bus at the airport going from the parking area into the building. And this woman gets on, and she's got a baby, and she's got her bag, and it's really crowded. And this gentleman stands up and says, please take my seat. No, I'm okay. He's like, no, take my seat. Like, hello, you've got a baby. And she wouldn't sit down. And she's struggling with all this stuff. And it's like, and you wonder why guys don't offer that anymore. So here's this man who now looks like he's kind of like, what do I do? I'm embarrassed. Did I do the wrong thing somehow? And the whole bus is like, you could feel nobody knew what to do with this. I'm like, this is clear. Sit down. It's easy. You're not incapable just because he offered you a seat. That's a kind thing. And we see it all the time. And then you get on another place, and let's say it's an older woman, and she gets on and nobody offers her seat, and you can see she's all frustrated. It's like, because we've been trained not to do it. You're not going to accept it anyhow. So why would I make myself a fool and look stupid in front of a whole bus full of people? So we've got to do those things. Now, I got to say about the people like women who are independent, oftentimes what I hear, and I work with women all the time for the last 20 years, they say they're independent, and I'll say, well, would you like to not be the man in your own life? Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
So you're wearing the badge of independence for other women, not for the men. You would love for a man to do that. But if you're sitting there going, no, I've got it, I'm independent, he won't see that he has a role. He's not needed. Men need to be needed. So it's literally realizing there's no harm in doing that. There's no shame in doing that. It's actually how it's meant to happen. The yin and the yang, back and forth, the teeter-totter, right? I heard it said best by this gentleman. He said, men want to do things for women so that you can do the things we can't do.
Mm.
Because we understand there's a whole lot of stuff that women do amazingly well that men will never will. But if you're sitting there doing all the male work, heavy lifting, if you will, well, then it's taking away from you doing the magic that you're meant to do.
Mm.
But women think it means we're saying you're incapable. Never. I have never met a man who's thinking that. They're just like, hey, can I get that for you? Not, well, you're obviously incapable of opening a door. I better do that for you because you're pathetic. Poor little woman. That wouldn't be motivating for a man, to be honest with you. Right? So that's the shift. And when we realize there's no shame, you're not betraying anyone. Because the whole I'm an independent woman is not to impress the men, it's to impress the women. And that's where the disconnect happens.
Yeah, and just to put the punctuation point on this, Ken, I want to refer back to something you said earlier by prefacing it with this, and that is that I think sometimes as women, we don't understand, or we don't comprehend how deeply satisfying it is for a man to be able to provide things for a woman that she might even be able to provide for herself, but that makes it easier for her, or makes her life a little bit nicer, and then to be acknowledged and appreciated for it. I think that's a part of what creates that chemistry or that attraction between a man and a woman, and creates more of the dynamic for a romantic relationship rather than a more platonic friendship or business kind of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for that to happen, we as women have to allow ourselves to be in a receptive mode for him to offer something to us that he can be acknowledged and appreciated for. And what you said, and this is what I wanted to put the exclamation point on, is when a man does meet that kind of woman that he knows what he has to provide for her makes her happy, that's typically who he falls in love with and potentially marries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and be clear, there's no man that can provide everything.
Right.
So he's going to be aware of what he's capable of, what his abilities are, and he'll be thrilled to provide those things. And he may have to tell you at times, I don't have that capacity for whatever that particular need is. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to contribute. It simply means he knows his limitations. And he's going to be supportive of you getting that need fulfilled in a different way. But that's the thing. It's not like, oh, the right guy will be able to do everything. I was just talking to a woman yesterday. She had been dating this man. She said 98% of everything was fantastic. 2%. One little thing that wasn't okay. She kept resisting that he wasn't everything perfectly the way she wanted. Turns out his experience was he was being rejected.
Oh, yeah.
And so he ended the relationship because she couldn't let it be that, well, that's not something he has the capacity for. So I just simply have to fill in that one little 2% thing in a different way. But she had this belief that he had to be everything exactly the way she wanted it. And now she's sitting there heartbroken, going, what am I doing? Did I just screw up the best thing in my life? Mm-hmm. So understand that's part of partnership. Nobody is everything. So you go, wow, there's 98% of everything I'm looking for is amazing. I think I can fill in the other 2% someplace else.
Yeah.
But she wasn't willing to let go of that. That's another way we sabotage our lives, as this woman, unfortunately, is an example of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for going deep with this, Ken, because I just think it's such an important piece that I really wanted to kind of drill down on this, and I really appreciate your sharing your wisdom on this. So just shifting gears just a little bit, there's something you talk about which is called the TGTBT syndrome, and how this is also sabotaging women's chances to be in an amazing partnership. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so TGTBT is too good to be true. And I hear this from women all the time where they meet a guy. Well, this woman's a great example, right? 98% of what she's looking for. Well, but that can't be right. Right? I think it's got to be a certain way. Or I got what I wanted and I don't trust it. Wait a minute. This guy must be a player. So literally you're wanting something, but you don't believe you can actually have it. And when it shows up, you doubt its validity. I'll give you a great example. I had a woman I was working with who had her very specific outline of what she was looking for in a man. And she hopped on a dating site. She didn't tell me about it. She's like, I just decided to see what happened. And literally in like the first hour, she gets an email or a contact from this guy who is exactly like, she goes, I was like sitting there flabbergasted. He was everything I was looking for. And she literally wrote back to him and said, thanks for the communication, but I think you're a scam. I'm blocking you.
Mm.
And he wrote back, what do you mean I'm a scam? We've actually met before. So she'd actually experienced this man in real life, flesh and blood, has met this man, and she had such a block that she couldn't have what she wanted. It was too good to be true when it showed up again.
Mm.
And this is what we do all the time. So we place our desires out there to the universe. We ask God for them. We pray for it every night. And then when it shows up, we don't believe it's real. And then we self-sabotage, or we say, well, he's just too nice. What is too nice? That's, I mean, huh? And I want you to think about it this way, because this is the only place I've seen that we do this. So think about if you went to a restaurant and, you know, the waiter comes by, you order your dinner, and you say, oh, I want, you know, this kind of salad. I don't want any tomatoes on it. I want this dressing on the side. I want, you know, whatever it is. You've got specific things you want about your meal. When they take off, you don't have any hesitation. You're going to get what you want. 20 minutes later, they come back, they put it on your plate. You don't sit there and go, wait a minute. This is exactly what I ordered. Something's fishy here. I don't trust this food. It's what I asked for. You would never, ever do that. But you do it in relationship. You do it when you're looking for the man of your dreams. Mm-hmm. So this is what TGTBT is. We sit there and we get what we want and we don't believe it. And there's a lot of different reasons that contribute. One of the big ones is you don't feel you deserve it.
Yeah.
You never actually felt worthy of what you were asking for. So you had this when you put out the order, you're basically going, well, that'll never come back, so it's safe to order it. And then when it does show up, you're like, well, I don't feel like I can have this. He wouldn't, he's my dream guy. He wouldn't be okay with me. I don't weigh the perfect weight. I don't have the perfect job. My hair doesn't look perfect, whatever it is. So that's a big thing, is where we don't have the self-esteem to receive exactly what we want. Or we decide we've got an idea of what it's supposed to look like. It's got to fit these certain forms. And then we don't allow the person who actually is our hero to be our hero, because he doesn't look like our hero. Think about Superman. Clark Kent doesn't look like the hero. If you didn't already know he was going to turn into Superman, you'd be like, whatever. But you've got to let the Superman come out. And when you're in TGTBT, you don't do it. Mm-hmm. You have all these reasons why you can't have what you actually ordered. And the funny part about it is, the other factor is, we believe it's got to take a long time. Well, that was too fast.
Yeah.
Really? Do you really think God is slow at what he does? Snap of the fingers, he can create anything. So why are you surprised that you can have what you want instantly?
Yeah.
True. I can't believe that. That's too fast. Well, yeah, it's too fast for you to create as a human. It's not too fast for the divine.
Right.
So another way that we get in our own way. It's got to take a long time. And part of the reason why we actually want it to take a long time, because we know we're not ready. We're not willing to receive it yet. See how we came back to receiving? It's
Yeah,
huge, ladies. It's so gigantic.
it is so huge. It is so huge. In fact, as you were speaking, I had a flashback to a conversation I had with one of my clients a while back, and she said that she told me about this guy she'd met, and she said he's like a unicorn. He's like exactly what you're saying. He's like too good to be true. I just can't believe it. And so it was like almost like she was looking for some kind of fatal flaw or something wrong. And I think maybe something that's underneath this might be that maybe we've been disappointed a few times, or we've had things that haven't worked out. And so we're like almost waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have experienced disappointment, or like you said, we don't feel worthy. But I do think that a key to this for sure is, are we really ready to receive what we say we want? Because if we're not, we're going to block that. We're going to sabotage it in one way or another.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought up the unicorn, because this is something that, I mean, we do this in all kinds of different ways, where we come up with this collective identity that we're going to put out there and say, oh, well, they're unicorns. So in other words, we're agreeing as, you know, a culture of women or a culture of men, whichever, that what we really want is mythical. It's not real. We will never, ever see it in the flesh. And then when we do, we decide, yes, I can touch you, I can hear your voice, but no, you're mythical. There is another shoe going to fall, right? There's something else coming. I'm missing this. This is a balloon and it's going to pop. Well, part of receptivity is, how much can you receive?
Mm-hmm.
Are you open to more than you imagined? Because I promise you, the divine, like you, like, I want this, is like, oh, that's easy. I'm going to give you, it will bring you stuff that's way beyond your wildest dreams. And it happens in all kinds of places. A great example is where I live right now. When I first walked in, I, seen pictures online and whatever, and I was like, oh, this place looks great. It looks like that, and those aren't fake pictures. It'll be great. Did you hear what I just said? If it isn't fake pictures, I didn't believe it was true. I'd seen too many that weren't what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk in the door, and literally, as soon as I open the door, I'm like, everything else is a bonus. Because I knew it was exactly what it looked like in the pictures. And sure enough, there were all these other things. I'm like, bonus, bonus, did not have that, way beyond my wildest dreams. And this was after a long time looking, where I was literally going, maybe I got to move someplace else because I cannot find anything close to what I'm looking for. Sound familiar, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
Walked in and it's everything and beyond my wildest dreams. And I could have been like, wait a minute. There must be a problem here. It's going to fall down. They're about to sell it. I could have come up with all these stories. Instead, I talked to the guy, Jeff, who had the place, and I said, so how do we do this? He's like, we can do it right now. Literally, we closed the deal that night right there. Because I was like, I can have all this and more. I can receive this. I actually knew my baseline, and this exceeded it. Good. Not, ooh, I don't trust that. And remember, I had spent months and months and months and couldn't find anything remotely close to what I was looking for, which is what most people do when they're dating.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good guys out there. I keep meeting the same deadbeat guys, whatever it is. So then you're like, even the guy that seems like Prince Charming, I'll bet he lives in his mom's basement.
Right.
It's like, why? Why can't you see that? And yes, I hear the women already that are saying, well, there's scammers out there. Yes, and scammers are obvious. You just want them to be true.
Yeah.
Scammers look for the person who wants to believe their story because they know their story is crazy. Let's be honest. There's the legendary guy from Nigeria that says he needs to send you all his money to his bank account. People still fall for that today.
Right.
So they look for the people that want the magic thing to fall out of the sky, that don't care about the giant red flags that are beating them on the head. But that's not you.
Right.
You're discerning. But don't be discerning from, it can't possibly be. That's not discerning. That's fearful. And that will always shut you down.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really well said. And I think this is a very real thing too. I
Mhm.
think this is something that so many women have experienced or might be in the middle of experiencing. And it is hard sometimes after having a disappointment after disappointment to stay open to that possibility of having what we want. But we can internally block that. And like you said, this is not a big miracle for God to bring the right person into your life. You know, we're talking about, we're not parting the Red Sea here. And even if we were, that's possible for him too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, and it's not, I mean, we're making light of the big extreme miracle, if you will. It's not a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal. And the other thing I want you ladies to think about is, how big is your sample group? There are 3.5 billion men on the planet. You've dated 5, 10, maybe 20, maybe 50. None of those numbers are a statistical valid sample group of 3.5 billion. And I'll challenge you that if you dated 50, I'll bet at least half of them were the same guy with a different face. You didn't actually date 50 different guys because you've been repeating the same patterns. So you got this teeny tiny inconsequential sample group and you're blanketing over all mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not actually open to what you believe you can have, because you don't believe it. You want it, but you're measuring it against, well, but how could I had a woman yesterday say this to me. She said, there's so many women that are prettier than me and in better shape than me and so on, and they can't find anybody, so how could I? What? This isn't, you're in line based on how pretty you are. Go to the store, go to the market, go to that wherever. Look at the diversity of couples. There is no so-and-so's in first in line.
Right.
When you can receive it is when you get yours. It's not because, oh, you suddenly made supermodel status. That doesn't work at all. I have a friend of mine who worked in the fashion industry in New York. He used to be the creative director for Vogue magazine, surrounded by supermodels all the time. He's like, you wouldn't believe how many of them are totally miserable and can't hold a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thinks that's the key. It's not.
Yeah.
It's in here. It's believing you're worthy. It's owning that you deserve this. It's being able to be receptive to what it shows up. And yeah, you could meet some guy and he's great and he's awesome and it doesn't work out. Okay. That's what dating's about. That's how we find out. Just like, you go shoe shopping. They look great on the shelf. They go get your shoe out of the back. They bring it to you. You put it on and it feels terrible. Well, it's like dating. You realize, no, this actually doesn't fit. I wish it did because it's really cute, but it doesn't fit.
Right.
Guess I got to keep shopping. We don't quit shopping for shoes because a pair doesn't fit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most women definitely don't stop shopping for shoes if the pair doesn't fit.
But what you will do is you'll contort yourself and go, well, maybe it's not so bad. They'll break in.
Oh.
I'll get them to stretch. They'll work better. And you take them home and you never wear them because they give you a blister as soon as you put them on your foot. You do that in dating too.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the guy. I know he's not the guy. It doesn't fit, but he's so darn cute. Or he's got the right income. Or he wants to take me places. I'll try and contort and make that work. When you knew it right there at the store, it didn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Sometimes you're tired of shopping. So what do you do when you're tired of shopping? I know a lot of you go, keep shopping. You push on. Or you can take a break. There'll be another day to shop. You don't have to have it right now just because that's when you buy the wrong thing, right? I decided I was going out Saturday and getting the perfect shoes. Didn't find any that were perfect, so I'm going to decide this one is, even though I know it's not. And that's what we do. Because we think it's going to take a long time. So we're going to expedite it by making it happen. We've got to trust.
Yeah, yeah. That was really well said. Thank you, Ken.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure.
So I feel like we've talked about some really, really important things today. Really, really important. And I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom so generously. And I want to ask you one last question before we begin our wrap up. And that is, what's one thing that you think would be important for women to know about men?
Oh, that's a good question. And just before I go into that, I want to say one thing. So for all you ladies watching this, please know, yes, I can get kind of direct and impassioned. And it's because I care so much, because I know what's available for you. I witness the suffering that's totally unnecessary every day. And I know you can move past it. So I'm not trying to blame you or shame you or make fun of you or anything like that. I'm trying to make it a big expression so that you recognize, oh my gosh, that is ridiculous. Oh my gosh, I am doing that. And that's why I do it that way. So I just wanted to be clear. I'm not like, oh, I know what's going on and I'm some superior man. No way. I'm on your team. So to your question, Michelle, what do I want women to know about men? It's a great question, because I used to ask guys this all the time. I still do, but not as much. I mean, literally, when I first thought of this question, which is so funny when you mentioned it, I'm like, that's exactly the question I used to. I literally emailed every man I knew on the planet. And I said, what's one thing you want women to know about men that would make relationships better? And I got amazing answers. But the one that it boiled down to the most in all kinds of different forms was, just tell us what you need. We're horrible guessers. And that's the thing. Men know they're horrible guessers. We're not deluded to think that we're really good at guessing what you need. Men know this. You do too, because we prove it to you every day by not being able to guess what you need, and then you're frustrated. And you're still amazed we don't know how to guess what you need.
Right.
You've had this proven to you thousands and thousands of times. But you have this fairy tale that men do know, and they're just holding out. And what happens is, there's a great statement, which is, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. And that's what happens with men. So men are guessing. We're guessing wrong 99% of the time. But that one time we get it right, you go, oh, goody. I knew he could do it. He was just holding out. From now on, he's always going to know what I need. Because you want it so badly that he'll just know. Prince Charming will know exactly what I need. When actually you're hanging on this one exception that was actually, he just like bumbled into it. And you give him some incredible level of credit, like now he's a mystical, guru that can read your mind. Here's why you want that so bad. And know this is coming from years and years of research. Because you actually don't feel worthy of your needs. Mm. And if you have to express your needs, there's the risk of somebody going, well, why do you deserve that? Why are you worthy of that? And being challenged, and that's terrifying. So you're hoping the guy will just guess your needs. That way you don't have to risk actually expressing them. And it's a train wreck. Because we're horrible, horrible, horrible guessers. We know this. Sadly, we prove this to you all the time. So my invitation to you, and the thing I most want you to know about men, is men have said this so many times to me and many others, don't make us guess. Let us know what you need so we can provide it. We want to provide it. We're wired to be providers. We're not designed to be guessers. We're not women. So we don't have the same inherent needs you have. It's not obvious. Here's my tip to all of you. Anything that feels obvious to you, well, that should be obvious that I need that. What do? We go, well, it's obvious. I'm not going to bring it up. It's obvious. If it feels obvious to you, I guarantee you it's not to him. It's obvious to you as a woman. Just like we were talking earlier about reciprocation. He doesn't know you need connection like that. So you say, nice shirt. He says, thank you. And you feel like, what happened? You had a need for connection that he didn't fulfill because he didn't know you were needing connection. He's like, well, right here, aren't we connected? Right? It's just like we've all had this experience. You come into the room, your guy's there, and you're like, I want to spend time together. And he's like, we are spending time together. He doesn't know that that means something totally different for you. So that's the key. Men do not know how to read your minds, and we never, ever, ever, ever will. We can learn your preferences over time, but even then, we don't know what you need in the moment, right? We could learn that, you know, your favorite kind of movie is rom-coms. And we're like, oh, cool, I'm going to take her to a movie. And you're like, why are we going to this? What do you mean? You love these? Well, the new Star Wars came out, though. Women change their perspective all the time. So for us to be able to guess it is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Stop waiting for the man to be the perfect man that guesses everything you need. Own that you're worthy of everything that you desire and express it so he can provide it. Or he can say, you know what, I'm not capable of that. Maybe there's somebody else that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you brought this one out, because as you know, I've interviewed so many men over the last few years with doing these man panels and things, and this has become so obviously true to me, this whole idea that men are not good guessers. And please, ladies, I've had men practically beg, say, please, please, please tell us what it is you want or you need from us, because we do want to make you happy. We do want to please you, but we don't always know what that means. And I've benefited from this, Ken, in my own life, because I've been able to implement this in my relationship with my husband. Instead of just believing he automatically knows, because we've been married now for 13 years.
Yep.
I now am more able to specifically ask him, and specifically is a word I'm using intentionally,
Yes.
for what I want or what I need in the moment. And then it's amazing. He's very willing and happy to do it for me. But I could have gone around huffing around the house being mad if I hadn't have asked. So I just see this as such a win-win, because
Yes.
we get more of our wants and needs met, and he gets that opportunity to be the hero, to be acknowledged and appreciated, and feel like he's adding value to you and to the relationship.
Yeah, and you said something very important, because it is a win-win. And one is you make sure you get what you need, but he's actually able to provide. Because here's the thing, think about it for yourself. If you were guessing at something all the time and you were always getting it wrong, aren't you eventually going to stop guessing?
Yeah.
It's not fun, so you're going to stop guessing. So if you don't want your guy to stop trying to provide for you, you need to let him know what to provide. Oh, that seems easy. But we have all these ideas of that ruins the romance. It's not a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale for a reason, ladies. It's in the fiction section. It's not real life. So let yourself live real life in partnership on the teeter-totter. That's part of partnership. Hey, hon, I need this. Great, I got it for you. How can we do that? That's partnership.
Right.
Not, I'm going to sit here, feel like I'm not getting what I need. I hope he figures it out. If he loves me, he will. If he loves me, he'll just know.
Yeah.
It won't work.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you brought this forward, and I really appreciate all of the wisdom that you've shared today, Ken. And I also know that you have a wonderful gift for the women that are listening today. And for everyone watching or listening to this, it's going to be in the notes below this video that you're watching or listening from. But Ken, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a masterclass I put together that literally takes you through the steps of what's needed to have a real partnership that lasts, and helps you identify where you might be tripping yourself up, so you can know where to focus, what to work on. Because if we don't have these things lined up, we're just stumbling around in the dark. Mm-hmm. It's like, imagine you were at a birthday party and they had a piñata. You're the person blindfolded and you're just swinging. You're hoping you hit something, right? But most of the time you're just swinging in midair because you don't have a clue. And it does feel like, you know, a piñata where they're moving it at the same time you're trying to hit it. And maybe you kind of get a glancing blow and then you get all excited and you're like, bang at it, but there's nothing there anymore. So we've got to do the work to figure out what's the area where I'm flailing around. And then we can get clear and we can actually hit our target.
Yeah, we can't do better until we know better. Yeah. We can't adjust something unless we know that there's something to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's more than just knowing it, because we can know all kinds of stuff, but until we integrate it and change how we're operating, that's when things get magical. Because now we're working from a different operating system.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just going, yeah, I know I should be doing this, but I'm still doing that. We've got to put it into action. And that's the challenging part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ken. This has been really fun to have this conversation with you, and I really appreciate you dancing with me and going deep into some of these topics. And I think the things that we talked about are really so important and so valuable. So I'm really grateful that you're willing to contribute, and appreciate the work you're doing out there in the world, and appreciate our partnership over the years, because you and I have partnered on a number of projects over the years, and I really appreciate your contribution.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on here. And all you ladies watching, check out the class that I provided. It's going to make a huge difference in your world. And Michelle's been very generous in bringing these to you all. So thank you, Michelle, for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so once again, ladies, click on the link below the video that you're watching for to get access to Ken's masterclass. And be sure to leave a comment and like the YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and be on the lookout for new Man of the Month events that will be coming out at the beginning of each month. Thank you again, Ken, and thanks everybody for watching.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.